Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. I am Kim Langling, your host, and I am so glad that you are deciding to join myself and my guest today for another few minutes of chit chat. And you know what? We just might solve the world's problems because that can be done between two people in less than half an hour. So let's try that, shall we? I have Randi-Lee Boslaw with me today. She's an author, mental health advocate, and former kickboxing champion. How cool is that? So she's a passionate advocate for mental health, an accomplished author. Her writing career took off in 2017 with her first book, Thoughts of a Wanderer, focusing on mental health awareness. And since then, she's authored a diverse range of books, including nonfiction, children's stories, and even Draw Your Own Story series. How fun is that? While publishing her second book, A Mother's Truth, Randy faced a personal challenge, being diagnosed with cancer, but her resilience and passion for storytelling never wavered. She's also spent over a decade competing in kickboxing, earning the title of Canadian National Champion of 2015. And when she's not writing or advocating, she enjoys spending quality time with her family. And I am excited to have her as a returning guest to Let Fear Bounce. Randy, welcome back.
Hi, I'm so glad to be back. Feels like I haven't talked to you forever.
I know.
We just recorded for my show last week, guys, so it's
That's
actually
right. She's
very
the
funny.
podcast. She is also the podcast host of the Write or Die show. So, and I was just her guest the other day. So, how fun is this to swap shows?
I love it. I'm so looking forward to it.
So, you've got a lot. You've got a lot in your little mini bio that I read. I want to talk about first Thoughts of a Wanderer. I love that title. So, how did that
Thanks.
title come about? And that was in 2017. You said your writing career, that's when it actually
Yeah,
got
that's when
some legs on it. So,
yeah. So that's when that
share if
first
you
one,
can
yeah,
how that journey started.
that's when that first one got published, Thoughts of a Wanderer. And that book, so the title really came because of the content of the book. Sometimes I get a title first and then I write a book, but this was different. So it's a book of poetry, really dark, deep, depressive poetry. But it's poetry that I wrote when I was first depressed as a teenager. Before I even knew what the word depressed meant. I was just writing out how I felt in poetry styles. Then in 2017, I found all those in my basement when I was cleaning it up, and I went, "Oh, I don't want to throw them out, but like, what am I gonna do with them?"
I
And at that time, my daughter was going through some stuff, so we started talking about mental health a little bit more, and I was like, "Huh, this maybe I could put this into a book." I always said I was going to write a book. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. This is before I decided to call myself an author because at that time I just wrote a book. It's not a big deal. I think a lot of us experience that with our first book. I wrote a book. It's there, but I'm not really an author.
right.
Um, and so I put together like the poetry, but then I also wrote um the beginning and an end so that people could understand like, yes, these are deep, dark, depressive problems. This is the time that I wrote them, what was happening in my life. And then at the end, it's I'm so glad that I did not do what all of these deep, dark, depressing poems said
Right.
because everything got so much better. And so Thoughts of a Wanderer really came because that's how I felt. I felt like I was just sort of wandering through life, and these were my thoughts that I had written down. So the title was just perfect.
It is perfect. And depression is a very big issue, I think, worldwide.
Yeah.
And it's tough. I have experienced it and I know that I'll experience it again. We all do. Everyone does. Some may it may be chronic for some, as you know, and then some folks it's just because the circumstance that you're going through.
Hmm.
You know, grief or the loss of a loved one or a job or a
Yeah,
spouse, what have you. Um, are you willing to share a little bit about your journey
of
with
course.
depression when you were younger and how you were able to, and I'm through your writing that helped, as you just said, but
Mhm.
as a teenager and being depressed, because there's a lot of teens out there, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, the suicide rate is very high.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we don't want to lose any more souls. So, can you share a little bit about your journey um, living with depression as a teenager?
Yeah. So, like I had said, I didn't know what it was at the time because we're going to early 2000s. All right. So, yeah, the internet's around, but it's just a baby.
Right.
You don't go to it for every little thing. So, to go, why do I feel like this? That wouldn't have come up. at the time. And at that time, again, it was very much you don't talk about it. You put on a smile and you go about your day, right? You slap on that smile, Kim.
Exactly.
We
Yes.
were just talking about that before we hit record. So you slap that smile on, and you just go about your day. You do not talk to people about it. You do not let others know how you feel about yourself. And so because nobody was talking about it, I just thought, oh, okay, everybody is exactly the same as me, where we all just hate ourselves. We go through life hating ourselves. And I'm like, as a teenager, I go, well, this is a really crappy way to live life. But again, it's the only thing I knew. So it's what I assumed everyone else also dealt with. Um, doesn't really make it easier. Assuming that it really didn't make it easier. It just was sort of a fact that I decided was a fact. Not a real one. I just decided it was. And so most of these poems actually were written while I was in school, and I would get in so much trouble all the time for my teachers going, pay attention, you need to pay attention. And I'm sitting there writing out my poems. So haha, teachers, they turn into a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just helped me kind of make it through the day because in high school I was always the poor kid. We did not have a lot of money. So I was the poor kid. At home, my mom had married an alcoholic, and so things were very tumultuous at home. You never knew what you're walking in the door. My older brother was in and out of jail and doing drugs. So it was how do I go and speak up when first off, nobody talks about it. So how do I even begin? And then second off, my mom is dealing with so many other things that she doesn't really want to hear from me. She thinks I'm fine. I've talked to her as an adult, and that's not the way things went, but this is
Right.
the view of the teenager, right? She's too busy for me. So I'm not going to bother her. I'm just going to sit in my pain myself. Um, and so yeah, during school was the time that I would be sitting for hours a day. So what else to do? Obviously not schoolwork. So I would write my poems and doodle, mostly poems, but a little bit of doodling. Getting in trouble for doing it. And just trying to block out the world because being the poor kid in a rich kid's school, I was picked on. I never felt like I fit in. Turns out I have autism, so that tracks. But again, the things we don't know as a teenager really play into our mental health. So I just felt like I was different than everybody else. I didn't get why they cared if they were dating somebody and their boyfriend, and ooh, and I'm just like, hey, cool. Why are you holding hands? Don't touch me. Like, even with my husband, I'm like, you sit on that side of the couch and I'll sit on this side of the couch and I love you from over there. Right. So these are things that a typical teenager, they want to go on so many dates, they want to go to parties, they want to hold hands. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to be in bed by 10 o'clock. I don't want to be out all night. So I really didn't feel like I fit in, which again didn't help the depression. And then the craziness of my household with everybody didn't help. Um, so to come back kind of to your question of how was I dealing with that? Not well.
Yeah.
So poetry was the big one. And then my cats. I had two cats as a teenager, Tigger and Diamond. Uh, Diamond was my cat. So Tigger was my mom's cat. She had, um, I think before I was even born. But of course I loved him. He was adorable. But Diamond was my cat. I convinced my mom in grade 8 to let me get this cat because it would be my birthday present. I loved her, and I really did. And so I cracked her. I got her in June, but my birthday's in October, but it was a birthday present. I still got a real birthday present too. So I would take my cats, I would go in my room, shut the door, and cuddle them, play video games, just try basically to block out the noise. And when I say the noise, yes, internal noise of my brain saying, you're stupid, nobody likes you. The nobody likes you was the biggest one because um I wasn't stupid. I always did well at like book wise. I'm smart. Street smarts, that's to be seen. But again, it's that autism that I now know I have. But at the time, it was like, you don't fit in. Nobody likes you. People are making these jokes. You don't even understand them. And so having that constantly going in your brain. It's
Right.
exhausting, absolutely exhausting to listen to.
I'm glad you
And
said that, the word exhausting, because
yeah,
depression is exhausting. All you
yes,
want to do is sleep.
yes,
I
right.
mean, it truly is exhausting of what's going on in your brain. And those thoughts as a young person, as a teenager or a tween or whatever the case
Mhm.
may be for who may be listening, um, it's heavy.
So happy.
And it's very, very, like you said, that's what you knew. Your home
Mhm.
life was tumultuous. And what a great word, too, by the way.
Thanks.
Mine was the same way at times. So I
Mhm.
completely resonate with what you're talking about. And that wanting to just, I used to shut myself in my bedroom all the time and turn on the
Yeah.
record player. Yes, I said record player.
I had a clock radio.
I had one of those little record players that looks like a little tiny suitcase. You literally
Oh,
just open it.
yeah, yeah.
You can put 45s on there or a
Okay.
normal
Yep.
33 LP, I think. Yeah, I would
Yeah, I
listen.
eventually, yeah, had the boom box with the tape player
Oh,
and then a CD player
wasn't
eventually.
that the high life when you got a boom box?
Oh my gosh, it was the best. My,
It was amazing. When I
yeah.
got mine, I asked for it for my birthday, and that was a big ask
Oh yeah.
because I too grew up poor. So that was a big ask for my
Yeah.
mom, single mom raising four kids, you know?
Yeah.
And but she somehow got, oh no, it wasn't a boom box, it was a tape recorder before boom
Oh,
boxes. I think I'm a
yes.
few years older than you,
A
but it was
little
like this
bit.
big, you know?
Yeah.
And when I got that, I was so excited. And the first
Yes.
thing that myself and my brother did was we went out in the front of the house. We live in a small town, America, tiny little town. And we lived on like the main street just outside of town. And we sat on the curb and turned it on and recorded the cars going by.
Oh,
And my brother pretended he was like a race car uh,
like announcer.
commentary guy.
Yes.
Because when you played it back, it sounded exactly like you were at the races because the
Yeah.
cars going by, even though they're going 25 miles an hour, it was like
I love
so
it.
fun. And then when you
Oh.
graduate to a boombox,
Oh.
that's
Whew.
you're all that. You are all that.
You are. Yeah,
And a bag of chips.
that's right. So I had one of
I
those
just went I
eventually.
just went a totally different direction. But boy, you said boombox. I'm like, yeah,
So nostalgic.
it is. It is. Sometimes you look back and you're like, yeah, it'd be nice sometimes. Sometimes
Yeah, yeah.
the simpler part of it, but
Right.
the exhaustion on it with depression.
Ugh.
I remember because I've struggled with depression for years before I
Mm-hmm.
realized or was diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
And you mentioned autistic that
Mm-hmm.
you didn't know, and that probably plays a lot of. I don't know much about autism, but I'm sure that plays a part
Oh
because
yeah.
you said you felt like you didn't fit in, and that's a very solitary, lonely place to be
Mm-hmm.
when you
Oh
feel
yeah.
like you don't fit in.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time in my bedroom with the door shut,
Yep.
either reading or listening to music. I could literally listen to my record player for hours,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sitting there in my window,
Yep.
listening to music.
Yeah.
And my mom just left me be.
Yeah.
But years and years later, she's like, I often worried about you, but I didn't know what to do for you. Plus, she was working two and three jobs at times.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a lot of painting actually. I would
Um,
um these not 7-Eleven, the Avondale up the store from my house sold these little like figures, garden figures and stuff. And my mom would bring them home all the time and I would just paint them
awesome.
all the time. I loved it. I mean, I still like painting. I just being an adult is so hard.
I know. There are days, well, today, actually, I'll be transparent. I woke up after 4 hours of sleep and thought, I don't want to be an adult today. I'm
Hmm.
tired. I have a headache.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to be an adult. Sometimes it is overrated.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. But that's yeah, to answer the very first question, that's how I dealt with it. My bedroom, my cats, my poems and painting and music.
You know, and I completely get it
Yeah.
because I did the same thing. I wasn't painting, but
Yeah.
I too wrote the angsty teenage poetry.
Yes.
I think
Yep.
we all have. Most females, I think,
I think
have
so.
done that. And I
Yeah.
had like a, oh, what were those? The tablets with the yellow paper. legal tablets.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
That's what I would write them on. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, that's a decent. And then you'd go back and I did not keep mine, but I wish I would have, because I would go back and go, wow, Kim.
Right? I read some of them like, wow, how am I still alive? Like I literally wrote a poem about killing myself. Like
Oh,
that what I was gonna do. And I'm like, wow, I was messed
you
up.
know what though? Looking back, it's for you. Me looking back, it sounded like that's what I was saying. For you looking back, when you reread those as an adult, what did that do to you? Was that like a gut punch?
Um, that is a great question. No one has ever asked me that. I'm not gonna say it was a gut punch because I think that I still remembered all those feelings. Especially that as an adult I was still dealing with depression, so it wasn't just that time in my life, and so I was brought back. It was like, oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes I still feel that one. So it wasn't quite like that, but it was actually kind of relieving that I read them and I went, huh, I was so smart because I wrote this stuff out and didn't act on it.
You got it out of you.
Yeah. And I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I had no idea what the heck a coping strategy was. Those were not words that were used in the early 2000s.
No.
Not at all.
Well, because no
Um,
one talked about depression.
exactly. So I went, wow, I was ahead of my time using these coping strategies that I didn't know existed, but yay. So it was more of a accomplishment, I suppose, than anything else.
Yeah, what a thing to look back and think, wow,
Hmm.
you know, I was able to pull myself far enough away from that thought that
Exactly.
I'm still here and married and have a family and you're a grandma now too. I
I
mean,
know.
how
It's so
awesome.
cute. Yeah.
What a journey we all have.
Yes,
What a journey we
exactly.
all have. Because for me, let me know, tell me if it's the same for you.
Yeah.
For me, living with PTSD, depression plays a part in that, anxiety plays a
Hmm.
part in that, and a host of other things.
Yes.
Um, but there are days where it's just like I said, like today, I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally just wanted to stay in bed.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I didn't,
Yeah.
because this is the exact conversation I needed to have with someone today. So I like how that all works. But
Hmm.
when you look back sometime, and I don't like looking back. I would never go back.
It's hard to look back.
Yeah, and I would never want to go back and be a teenager again.
Mm-mm. I've said that so many times to my kids when they were teenagers. I'd be like, "Oh, I am so glad that I am not that anymore." I'm like, it
Right.
gets better, guys. It gets better.
It really does. I mean, it truly does. And it's so hard. And I know when you're stuck in your muck,
Yeah.
it's very, very hard to see the brighter colors and the light.
Yeah.
It is hard. Find someone that you can talk to. I had a best
Hmm.
friend that he and I could talk about anything.
Hmm.
And
I
we
have that
spent
now.
how awesome. But I mean, it's sometimes when you feel so alone and so isolated, you feel like you can't say anything to anyone because, especially back in the day, depression
Yeah.
was not talked about.
No, not at
Mental
all.
health,
Mm-mm.
that was taboo. You
Yeah.
did not share what was going on in the house with anyone.
Mm-mm.
No one's supposed to know your business, especially in small towns. At
Yeah.
least this is my perception of it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say, I mean, my town's not, I wouldn't say that it was a small town, for Canada where it was pretty large. But it was the same. It
Yeah.
was the same. You didn't talk about it.
And even now, well, I know my mom's generation,
Yeah.
you don't talk about stuff.
Mm-mm. Nope.
And even my generation was still, it was bumpy. I
Yes, that is
see,
a great word.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
see it more now that people are more open about it because here we are talking about it and we're going to
Yep.
be sharing it with the world,
Yep.
you know. But oh my gosh, even 10 years ago, I would never picture myself sitting here talking about depression and that I actually experienced it,
Hmm.
because let me know if it's the same for you. I looked at it at certain times as it made me less than.
Yes. That is so in my book Embracing Me, where I really delve into my depression. This one's not poetry, it's really about my depression and different strategies and stuff. There is basically a whole chapter on that specific sentence right there about
Awesome.
feeling less than. And just so everyone knows who's listening, you're not.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I always there's a saying that because I still talk to a counselor and I'm not ashamed to admit that either.
Yeah.
She had shared with me the one day because I was having a bad day. It was a
Mm.
dark day for Kim. And she said, Kim, when you look in the mirror, you're brushing your teeth in the morning or going to bed, whatever it is, what is that you see? And my first thought was a loser.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm less than. Look at her. She can't even make it through a day without having this thought or doing this or wanting to just not leave the house. Those thoughts.
Yeah.
And she
So
said, she said, we've got to change that around, Kim. She goes, because here's the thing. When you look in the mirror, you need to remind yourself that you have a 100% success rate for making it through the tough stuff because you're
yes.
still standing and you're looking in your own eyes right now. You have a and 100% success rate. It doesn't get better than that. So you
Right?
need to say, yeah, here we are, another day.
Yeah.
You winner.
Yeah.
You're an awesome person. So
You
that
are.
that was the thing that flipped a switch in my brain.
Yes. I love that. And I think when you were on my show, not this last time that we just recorded, but the time before, I think you said that. And I had
And
the
I
same
I share
reaction.
it all
Yes,
the
yes,
time.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
Um,
worth repeating.
it is 100% it is.
Yeah. And I've
For
shared it with a lot of folks and they all most of them have the same reaction I did because when I first heard her say that I was like, yeah. I mean, and how,
exactly.
isn't it funny how you look at how your brain processes things and how you get it so stuck, but then someone else outside your bubble shares that
Always,
one sentence.
always outside your bubble.
Yes,
Yeah,
always.
always. So they're the one because they're not in the muck too. They can see all the around it. They're like on the shore and they're seeing everything and they're like, okay, but you were in that muck spot before and now you're way over here. So like that's a long way you came.
Right. And it's a win.
Right? Actually, as
You gotta find your wins where you can. Because sometimes
hmm
someone shared with me a while ago, they said, you know what? They had some days where just getting out of bed and making the bed was
hmm
pretty much their accomplishment for the day.
Yeah,
I said, but why are you talking down about that? That's a win.
right? So we don't get gold stickers as adults. It's really mean.
I know.
I want
We
one.
should all have our own little gold sticker board right
Yeah,
beside our bathroom mirror when we're telling ourselves that we're
yeah,
awesome,
that's right.
made it through the day, you
They
know?
actually have started making those kind of stickers. I think maybe more as a joke, but I think I want them. I want to feel accomplished. I'll wear it on my little sweater. Got out of bed. Like, come on.
Yeah. I'll wear it in the middle of my forehead so everybody can read it.
Exactly. I am on this side of the grass, right?
Yeah. And for folks that have never experienced depression or have never felt those thoughts, it's hard to explain.
It really is because it's not a sadness, it's an emptiness.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
And that emptiness, which is amazing, the emptiness is heavy. And that makes no sense putting those
no, it
words
doesn't.
together, but it's a very heavy emptiness.
It's almost like because we're so visual, it's almost like a thick, thick fog. So the room is empty, but the fog is so thick that it's pushing you down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes you can't breathe.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah, we are both visual.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was a really good picture you just gave me. The fog is so heavy in the
yeah,
room that you're in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. In this completely empty room that you should be able to stand and jump and run around. It's just,
And you can't. Yeah, because it's so dang heavy. So you
mhm.
just lay down.
Yeah. I just want to sleep and
Yeah.
make
Yes.
it, you just want it to stop.
Yeah. And I
That's what it
remember
is.
doing that when my daughter was younger. I would come home from work, make her dinner, and immediately go down and lay on the couch and say, wake me up in an hour.
Yeah.
I did that every day for weeks.
Ugh. Yeah.
And she's like, Mommy, are you okay? Because you're so in it.
Yes,
She's
exactly.
like, Mommy, are you sick? I was frightening her. And I didn't realize that. Are you
Yeah.
sick that you have to sleep every day? And I'm like, then I realized, oh, Kim, pull yourself out of this.
hmm
you know. So and that was a tough time. And we all experience life. That's all, and things are hard at
Yeah.
times. I'm glad because on your show we talked about the toolbox. So
We did, and we had a whole visualization and what
yes,
each thing for what tool.
right. And because I said, I've been able to build up quite the toolbox over the years, and we pulled out some of those tools. So,
Yeah.
what's a couple tools that you use, if you use them regularly? Can you share what a couple of your tools would be?
Well, definitely writing, obviously. Um, so I got my little carpenter pencil. I can mark things off with my ruler and make it all go together. So writing is definitely one. That's why I write so much nonfiction because I'm helping myself, and then I go, oh, well, I've already written. I better help other people.
Right.
Animals would be a huge one. So I have cats and dogs, and then I also go and I ride horses on Wednesdays. So they are just the best. I love them all. My favorite horse, actually, it's so funny. So at the barn I ride, there's what do we have, 8 or 9 horses there, something like that. And my favorite one, his name is Doug. And
I love that name for a horse.
he
Doug.
is he is an a-hole. But that's why I love him because he reminds me of my puppy who just wants to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And he is just my favorite horse there. But yeah, so I've got some cats and some dogs at home, and so I love to snuggle, and I love
Oh yeah.
brushing them off. So that's the sander, we're talking about tools. That's a sander because I'm brushing
Mm,
them off, and I
yeah.
find it, I mean, it's soothing to brush them. Then you have the nice pet, and they're all soft, but then there's this excitement. I don't know, excitement's the wrong word, but like this contentment of I love watching the accumulation of fur come off, the shedding of it all.
The
Um,
shedding of it all.
I'll just leave that right there. You get it now. I like that, the shedding of it all.
Oh,
So
I
that
got
was,
it right away. I got
yeah,
it
you got it before I got it, and I said it.
right away.
So that
Because
would
I've
be
done it.
so that would be a really big one, and then just being outside, I would say.
Oh
And
yeah.
obviously, I like therapy, and I take antidepressants, and if you need medication, do it. But
Yeah, that's another. I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people look at that as a weakness too. And
mhm.
I know I did. I'm like, I'm not
Yep.
taking any pills. Are you
Yep. Oh,
kidding me? No
another
way.
whole chapter in that book. I was embracing me. Another whole chapter on that because yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I'm like, you know what? I'm not still on them. So I was on them a few times for like 6 months or 8 months at a time.
yeah,
And then I would be able to wean myself off. There is no shame in using the tools that you personally need to help you maintain.
exactly.
My doctor, when I first agreed to, I'm like, oh, okay, because I was such a mess. It was so hard to even make it through the day.
Yeah.
Everything seemed like a mountain. Everything seemed like a mountain. Getting
Hmm.
dressed, getting my daughter ready for school, it was almost impossible for me to do. I mean, it
Yeah.
was so heavy. And
Yeah.
he said, Kim, I don't want you to be on it forever. We're going to go 3 months at a time.
Hmm.
And what he goes, the only thing it's going to do, and I'll put you on a really, really low dose. The only thing it's going to do is turn those mountains into molehills. So they're much
Oh,
easier to
yes.
step over. You don't have to climb anymore, Kim. We need you to stop climbing because it's too tiring.
Yeah.
Never forgot that. And that was my primary care physician. I've never forgotten that because he was looking at me as the person first and not just, let's prescribe this here, take it, go.
Which is amazing because that does not always
No,
happen.
it doesn't. And I was very
Right.
blessed to have him in my life at that time. And I've
Yeah.
never forgotten that. He's like, let's just turn those mountains. It's just going to turn it into a molehill so you can step over it instead of having to climb.
I love that.
How awesome. Well, holy cow. Our time is just about at an end.
I know we could have a whole series, just
I
the
was
two
just
of
going to say,
us. Like
series. Are we sisters? How did this happen? What's going
we
on?
we might be. We might be. I think I have to come down your way and visit you because I'm pretty sure your weather's always nicer.
I don't know. It might be. Right now, today, it's really cold, dark, and dreary and gray.
Well, I'm sure you have bad days, but I mean you're so much more south than I am, so it's got to be nicer.
Well, yes, I am a bit more south than you. That's right. Well, hey, I always ask my folks to please let everybody know where they can find you and all of your good stuff. So share with the listeners where they can find you,
Yes.
your books, and all that jazz.
So all of my books are on Amazon. That's the easiest way to get them. And wow, my brain just went blank sometimes. So my website is
And that's okay.
Yeah. My website is rbwriting.ca because I am in Canada. And then I'm on Facebook, RB Writing, and YouTube, RB Media or Write or Die Show. Lots of episodes. Kim's on there a couple times. She's going to be on there again, and I'm sure again and again. And then I'm on Instagram and TikTok just under my name, Randi-Lee Boesla.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, as we close out the show, I ask all of my guests to please toss out a nugget of hope to the listeners. So what would your nugget of hope be today?
Well, I've said so many good ones already. I want a
I know.
different one, but
I
I gotta because of how funny my reaction was to realizing what I said, I'm gonna say it's shedding. You can shed the weight in different ways. And if that means that you need to shed it on a pet, awesome. If you can find other ways to shed it, awesome. But there's definitely you can shed it if you work out some different ways.
That's right. Build your toolbox.
Yep, exactly.
You can do it. That's the main thing. That's a great way to close out the show. You can do it, folks.
Yep.
You're so much stronger than you know.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome stuff, Randy. Thank you so much for being my guest again. It's been a true blessing and a true pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I look forward to, of course, coming back on again.
Yes, of course, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Right? We always find something more and more. It's great. I love it.
That is right. I know. It is awesome. And everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. New episodes are uploaded each Wednesday on YouTube, folks. So be sure you like, subscribe, and do all the things so we can keep the positive messages out there, pushing them out there so more people can benefit. Folks, you don't have to sit in the dark alone. You don't have to have a heaviness weighting you down. You can shed it, as Randy said. So build your toolbox, folks. You are stronger than you know. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in once again to Let Fear Bounce. This is Kim Langling, your host. Everybody be well, stay well, and above all, be blessed. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. New episodes drop each week, folks, on YouTube and Spotify and most listening platforms. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all the things. If you're craving more nuggets of hope or heartwarming animal stories, and let's face it, folks, who isn't? You can check out my books on Amazon. Don't forget to swing by my website to get in touch and keep up with all that's going on within my realm. So until next time, folks, take a deep breath, be kind to yourself, and as always, let fear bounce.